So in this segment, we are joined by Melony Butler, who works most closely with Dress for Success, and she will be speaking to us about best practices for presenting yourself virtually in a webinar, for basically presenting yourself on a virtual platform. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Melony to introduce herself a little bit more completely, and we will get started with the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Good evening, everyone. My name is Melony Butler. I'm the Executive Director of Dress for Success Cleveland. So I am excited to be here this evening. I'm having slight technical difficulty, but that is our mural in our wall in our office. So that's going to represent me tonight. Unfortunately, I can't get my video to work. So I'm actually here. Dress for Success is part of a worldwide organization, and we have recently gone through a shift after COVID to go from an all in-person platform to a totally virtual platform with teaching, with all of our activities, our events, and everything. So it's ironic that Nicole invited me to talk about virtual interviews. We were practicing and teaching virtual interviews a lot to women that were coming through our program in the last, say, 18 months anyway, because a lot of HR departments were not here in Cleveland, even though the corporations are here. So that was starting to happen even before COVID. But now with COVID, it is entirely 100% or 95% of the method of interviewing. So I put together some slides today to just kind of go over some best practices that we've learned and that I think will support and help all of you to kind of remember. So Nicole, are you going to bring up those slides?
Sure, I'm trying to pull them up right now. Bear with me.
Mm-hmm. So while Nicole is bringing up those slides, one of the things that I love to get the opportunity to talk about dress, because sometimes people think Dress for Success is only, we're only for women, but sometimes people don't associate that the need for our program is beyond the suit. So if you're not looking for interview clothes, or you're not looking for clothes to enter your new job, sometimes you think dress is not for you, but we are about holistic development. And I wanted to share a little bit about that with you tonight after we talk about what we're here to talk about, virtual interviewing, because we're a service for all women, whether you're come to deliver and help and engage with the women that walk through our doors. We're a platform for women to grow. And so I will just wait till we're ready with the slide.
Sorry, I'm trying to pull them up and I don't know why it keeps giving me a pushback. We're going to try it one more time. I think Jason, who's there for that, is nice. So thank you, Jason, for
Well, thank you so much. If we can move to slide 1, I wanted to bring out some prepare your environment. And when you're in front of the camera, you want to make sure that your coloring is right. You want to make sure your makeup is right. You want to make sure your room that you're sitting in. This morning we were in a meeting, and the gentleman was in his home, and his children were running around in the background, which was very distracting, although we all know that that happens. So the best practice is to isolate yourself. We're all working from home. To isolate yourself in a room and make sure that background is not showing anything you wouldn't want it to show. Make sure that your home front is occupied so that it's quiet and that there are as few interruptions as possible. You can't stop everything, and if something happens, be okay with that. Own it. We are all human. We all have circumstances. Do not just try to ignore it, because sometimes that will make the circumstance worse, and then you don't look human to other people. So if your child does come up to the camera and come into the view of your Zoom meeting or in your interview, address it. Your employer that you're interviewing for will admire your holistic approach, instead of just trying to say, go away, go away. So you want to make sure, but if you can, whatever you can do to prepare for that, make sure your noise in the background. I know I've been on a interview or a one-on-one call, forgot that my phone, I'm on the phone talking, maybe using it for the connection, but I have a desk phone, and I forget that I didn't put that on in a meeting, and your phone rings in the middle of a meeting. So just make sure that all of the extra television, all the extra noises are muted, shut down, or totally off. And then the lighting in the room. Have you ever been on a Zoom meeting with someone and they look like they're sitting in the dark? Make sure you have that right lighting. The best lighting is daylight, but if that is not available, make sure that the light is not coming from behind you, it's coming from in front of you, so it doesn't cast shadows. It just it gives you a better effect, and you don't look half light and then half in the dark. If we could move to the next slide.
Sorry, 1 second.
Okay. So, and then your technology, preparing your technology, making sure your sound is working. Like right now, I am speaking to you over my cell phone because I'm at home, and my computer, even though my laptop has sound, it frequently goes in and out. So I make sure that my phone is available to ensure a constant contact with the sound and it's not interrupted. Make sure your camera is positioned the right way so that your face is showing. Make sure the top of your head, the bottom of your head, or your neck is not the focal point when you're on that one-on-one Zoom meeting with someone. People still want to make sure that they're connecting with your face. Make sure you're looking into the camera, and not looking down. You're not reading notes. You are prepared for your meeting. And just because you're having a Zoom meeting, you do not lack preparation. You still want to make sure that you know your information, you know what you're going to say, and you know your life. So if it's an interview, if it's a presentation, you know what you're talking about, and so that you're not constantly looking at cue cards. If you do have to have notes, I suggest if you're on a laptop or a desktop that you put Post-it notes on the side of your screen so that you can still look like you're looking into the camera and still have that note to look at that's still at an angle where you're not looking down. Make sure your facial expressions are not reacting to what is being said, or sometimes we just have idiosyncrasies that are habits and quirky mannerisms that we do when we're just idle. So make sure that you have that poker face, as they call it, and have that smile on your face. Sometimes when we're not actually smiling, and because of our lack of connectedness with people today, we forget to smile. Your smile is like your biggest asset. It's your biggest accessory. So think of it as jewelry. Smile. And then you want to make sure that any kind of user IDs and names that you're using, display names, are something, your real name, not your nickname. I've seen people when they put their, turn their video off and their name comes across the screen, it's like their nickname. So you want to make sure all of that is work ready and work appropriate as well. You know, instead of Brittany Cable and say Brit, C, you know, spell your name out and let everybody see who you are. And just really, really remember to test that sound, because you can sound pitchy, you can sound too loud in somebody's ear, or you can be speaking so softly that no one hears. I was in a presentation and in a training the other day, and the guy was talking so fast and so low, we actually had to stop and ask him to go back almost 10 minutes worth of the presentation. We couldn't understand what he was saying, and he was so into, and he was very knowledgeable, but he was just almost muttering, and then you're going to do this, and then you switch this, and then you do this, and then you do this, and it's like, hello, we're not understanding you. So you want to make sure that you're speaking at a pace that people can retain. We're in a visual world, so we're not, and without that facial contact, you need to be able to give people time to process what you are, you know, what you're saying to them. So if we could move to the next slide. So this is actually from a meeting earlier today in our office. And I took a screenshot because I thought it was funny that I was going to be speaking tonight about this. And my intern, what's wrong with this picture? Her head is cut off. You know, and this was a 90-minute meeting and a training, and her head is cut off. She was present, she was active, but she doesn't look engaged with the rest of us. So make sure your camera is at the right angle. It could send the wrong message. The trainer called me back and said, was she not interested in what I was saying? Was she not listening, or was she working on something else? You know, when your camera is not positioned and focused right, there's all kind of perceptions that are going through other people's heads. So remember, even though we're virtual, we still want eye contact. So we can move to the next slide. And that is, if you'll go back, just so, go back one. The second photo down, that is me today. So just because I won't be visual to you tonight. So if you can move on to the next slide. So, and then dressing for success. Even though we are on camera, nobody can see from our waist down what's going on. Please still make sure that you're dressed in the same manner that you would have been going to the interview. And do not think about, I'm just going to dress from the waist up, because what if you have to stand up or get up and reach for something that you didn't have to your access to show something or demonstrate something. There is I can't think of the commercial where the guy, he's all ready and he says to his wife, oh, are they here? Are they on yet? And he comes into the room and he has no pants on because he thinks that their guests are going to be virtual and they are in person. So don't make that mistake. There's a lot of those faux pas. We had a board meeting and a person wasn't dressed adequately all the way down, and they said, oh yeah, I remember that document, let me get up and go get it. And we're all like, oh, okay, you know. So you don't want that reaction, and it just puts you in a mindset of taking this seriously and really presenting yourself holistically, presenting your attitude, presenting everything, and make sure that the coloring is conducive to whatever. If you have a background, like I have our raw mural as my background, so I do have to watch wearing like if I wore yellow or gold, I would kind of just mix into the background. And then I would look like I was just part of, just my head is out. So just remember that. And when you do have those backdrops that are preset from the computer, just remember that you're going to look, when you move, you're going to look like you're moving in and out because it is a backdrop and it's not the same. So if you can have a, you know, if you're doing this for branding purposes, that's awesome. But if you could just have natural light and have something that's office looking in the background. We did an event and the host was sitting, their office was in their closet. So the whole event, we saw their clothes. And even though it was neat and orderly, it's just not conducive to what you want to present. So make sure your office setting is somewhere where the background is neutral. And, you know, proper grooming is still needed, and more so. We say the eyes are really make contact. You speak from your eyes today with all of the masks. So make sure you are wearing makeup. If you wear makeup and you would wear makeup going to the interview, wear it on the Zoom virtual interview. If your hair, whatever hairstyle you would have, wear that hairstyle on the meeting. Make sure that you're grooming yourself in the same way that you would present yourself in a one-on-one live interview. So if we could move a little the slide forward. Body language. Even when you're not talking, people are looking at you. Make sure your body language, you're sitting up, your shoulders are back, you're looking like you're interested, you're not slouching, you're not frowning, you're not making that, did she just say that type of look? You know, even if you're thinking it, you have to have, again, that poker face. And make sure your eyes are connecting with people. Smile when people will say things, even if you are not verbally responding. So your eyes are your eyes are important on a virtual interview. Don't look up in the sky, searching and thinking and grabbing for that idea. Watch what you do with your hands as you're in an interview. A lot of people don't realize what their hands are doing when they are on a virtual interview. And so if your hands, think about what your hands would be doing if they're folded, or if you're writing, then have a piece of paper, that's fine. But if your hands are free, just make sure they're calm, because a lot of motion is distracting in a virtual interview. And it is okay to take notes and to act like you're engaged in writing things down, but just make sure that your body language is positive. Next slide. Make sure you know your company, and this is whether it's in person or virtual. Know what your company, its history, know when it became relevant to the community, know what it offers the community, know something about their transitions, of course, their products. And again, keep those post notes around, because you can't remember everything, right? You're gonna get nervous. You might have studied, and now your mind went blank. Keep your post notes around the outside, the frame of your computer, but up where you still look like you're talking. Make sure that you ask questions about the company and the possibility of movement and trajectory and advancement for yourself. Make sure you ask about, the environment of the company and what their philosophy and what their philanthropic giving is about. Make sure that you know, because the interview is an equal playing field. You are there to know about them. They are there to figure out. They're there to learn about you and figure out if it's a good fit. But you need to be figuring out if their atmosphere withstanding the actual job posting and the job capacity, is the atmosphere of the company you're going in, is it conducive to where you want to be and into your principles and to your values? Do not forsake your values for a job. You won't be happy, it won't last, and then you'll be back on the market looking again. You want to make sure that you stand, that you're going for, you're engaging with an organization that stands for what you stand for and believes and behaves in a way that you'll be proud to work there. That is just so important. And make sure you, if I didn't say that, just make sure you ask questions for clarity so that it shows interest. We can go to the next slide. And so a little bit about Dress for Success. We are a worldwide organization. We're in 28 countries, and we have 153 offices around the globe. We've been around since 1997. We've been in Cleveland since 1998. And our vision is to have a world where women don't live in poverty and are treated with dignity and respect. And I just think that is so relevant today to all of the social issues that are going on. And a lot of women think of Dress for Success in a way, or a lot of people think of Dress for Success as only being about clothes, but we're far more than clothes. Can we move to the next slide? We have a holistic approach to how we enhance, encourage, and empower women. We start with work-life balance, health and wellness, financial planning, career trajectory and advancement. And it's not on here for some reason, sorry about that, but also leadership and civic responsibility. We have a huge push right now to making sure people are voting and are registered to vote. We're not about who you vote for, but just the fact that your voice and your choices are heard. We are about women taking leadership in the community. Every year, a woman leads a community action project that impacts the community or a segment of the community that needs voice and being heard. So Dress for Success, it starts with the clothing. And yes, we do provide clothing on 3 levels when a woman is interviewing, when a woman is maybe employed and she gets an opportunity to interview or move up in the company. Sometimes you're moving from the back end of the industry to the front end and you need a different type of attire. You could come to Dress for Success for that. So there are all types of reasons that individuals come to our organization for suiting. We have moms that are returning after being stay-at-home moms, and they, I had a woman say, all I have is mom clothes, and I don't really have enough money right now to purchase a whole brand new wardrobe. So it is not only for the unemployed or the underserved, it's for women and what you need to advance. And then our workforce readiness is just what you think about, is helping women get placed, not only get the tools for employment, but also get placed in the workforce, and also to help a woman internally that is moving up in a job. An interview is an interview. I know when I've worked at Dress for Success for 20 years, and I actually moved up through the ranks of Dress for Success, and each time I had to interview. And I had to prepare for that just as if I was going to another company. And because you can't just take things for granted. So that is another resource that we have. We have HR coaches and individuals that will work with you virtually to practice interviewing or any other kind of career mapping or strategizing. And then our workforce retention program is that holistic development, personally and professionally, built on these 5 pillars. And our work retention programs are now open to all women. We're trying to encourage a mixture of women at different levels, enhancing each other and benefiting from each other. We have lean-in discussions once a month on Thursday nights. Next slide. So this is just kind of an overview, and I did email this PowerPoint to Nicole to share with the group. But these are just some of the tools, some of our online tools. Once you sign up on them, they're very, very helpful. Skillport, I demonstrated Skillport to Cleveland Clinic 2 weeks ago, and they are enthused with using this tool to, to offer their employees or their caregivers, so that you can thrive where you are, you can advance, but you can just increase your understanding and your skill level. So this tool, Skillport, is totally comprehensive. It has the software training, but it also has certifications. It has audio books. It has different videos. It has articles. So any kind of industry that you're in and you want to learn some new information about that, it is on Skillport. It has over 3,000 different methods of systems on it. It's a very, very great tool. Podcast, and it's constantly being updated. So just coming to Dress for Success to even get signed up on this tool is an asset for anybody at any level. And I really did test it on all levels, from C-suite women to women entering, and everybody found it enhancing. So this is something that we're offering the public. So you can move on to the next tool, to the next slide. And then our Little Black Dress Tie Club. This is a new initiative. If you believe in the mission of Dress for Success, if you believe in the vision of Dress for Success, maybe you don't have time to volunteer, maybe you don't have time to engage in programming, but you believe in what we do. This is a club, a recognition club, that basically for men or for women to show their recognition and their belief in what we're doing to better their community and to enhance those that are around you. And you can sign up for this membership for a year or 2 years. So this is something available, and there's a virtual wall on our website, and there is a wall in our education center where your name is recognized, and your name is on a dress or on a tie, and you are celebrated at our annual event every year. And this is a huge way to give back to not only to our organization, but to help a woman, to lift up another woman. Next slide. And this is just enclosed. We're not just about the entries, a woman who has never been employed. Like I said, if you just got a job, if you want to change a job into a career, if you have a virtual or in-person interview and you need processing, whether you've been employed for a while or just newly getting employed, re-entering the workforce after being out or becoming maybe you're now an empty nester and you want to do something different and you want to change total careers. Dress for Success is the place for you. And this is our contact information. So at this point, I guess I'll just open it up for Q&A. Nicole, turn it back over to you. I hope the information has been helpful to you tonight.
Yes, this has been amazing. Thank you, Melanie, so much for this amazing presentation. I will speak for myself, I learned so much. And actually, when we were speaking not too long ago and kind of going over the mission of Dress for Success and the scope of practice that they have and everything, there's so much that, I didn't know. And I think I just feel like avenue or one way that they give back to the community is most broadly publicized, and like, you know, getting women who are underprivileged or underserved kind of their initial outfits out, you know, to go to these jobs. And they do so much more, like you said, with workforce retention and everything along those lines. So it was an amazing webinar. Thank you so much. And we do have a couple questions. So one question that we have is, when would be the best time to join a virtual interview? If your interview is at 2 o'clock, should you join right at 2 o'clock or a few minutes early? What do you feel would be the best practice, excuse me, for that?
I think joining a few minutes early would be your best practice. Zoom has a regulation now that you have to have either a waiting room or a passcode to get in. So a lot of people are using the waiting room. So making sure you're there when the employer is ready to, you know, admit you into the waiting room. All of our clocks, we think they're all synchronized, but they're all a second or 3 seconds or a little bit off from each other. So being there about 5 minutes, 4 minutes early, I think would be the best bet for that.
So thank you so much. And that makes sense. I think like if you were going to an in-person interview, you try to give yourself a buffer about 10 to 15 minutes for traffic or not knowing where to park or all these other type of things. So definitely having a buffer for that. In signing in, like we have technical difficulties, is definitely a great idea. So I have a question in regards to ring light. So I have found myself in a situation where I've been doing a lot of webinars, and I guess all of us have, with publicly speaking on these virtual platforms, that I took the advice of one of my colleagues and bought a ring light. And it's very cool, and it has all these different levels of warmth to the light, and you can make it brighter and dimmer as you please. So I was just wondering, do you feel like in this era of COVID and with not knowing when we are actually going to start interviewing in person, would that be a good investment to make?
I think so. I think COVID's going to be around for a while, and I think what most employers have experienced through COVID is a cost savings that can be redirected in other areas to enhance the company. So some of the functions that we think are temporary are going to stay, and I think interviewing is virtually might be just one of them. So I think making investments to making sure that your equipment and everything that you need to have a virtual presence, even when we go back to having in-person, there's still going to be a virtual presence, because what I think the value of COVID, not that there's anyone getting sick, but it's been the connectedness globally to people. And I think that that's something that's going to maintain.
Thank you. We had another question that spoke to, how do you maintain and increase engagement from your interviewer? I know we've talked a lot about maintaining eye contact on the interviewee side and making sure that they are, you're engaged with them, but how do you keep them engaged with you, if that can be reciprocated?
So are you talking about from the interviewer, keeping the interviewee engaged?
Or I think so, like in keeping eye contact with the interviewer, they see that, oh, this person is here, and they want to know about this job, and they're engaged in us. How do you necessarily kind of, sorry, I'm all tongue-tied today. How do you make sure that you engage your interviewer so that it's not just them going down a list of, oh, so please tell me about a time where you experienced adversity, and how did you overcome that? How do you kind of break that wall and become a standout candidate, I guess, in the way that you are engaging them through that meeting? If that makes sense.
So that's when I think what I think what I hear you saying, Nicole, is Instead of feeling like it's going one way and the interviewer is just asking you questions, tell me about yourself and all those typical questions, and when did you do this, the behavioral based questions that come at you, is make sure you have some questions back to the employer about their company. That's why I'm saying investigate the company, because this is an equal playing field, the interview. So you want to make sure you're asking and showing that you're interviewing them as well as they're interviewing you. So making sure that you're asking questions about the job, if it's opening, what did happen to the last person that occupied this job? Have some questions that they have to give you some information back. What are the opportunities? How long does it take the typical person to move up? Are there any contingencies about how soon I can apply to move to other areas? Or what are the other areas that are growing in this industry? Whatever the questions may be, make sure you have some questions about that company. What is your belief? What's your philanthropic belief? What company, what nonprofit do you support? What is the volunteer policies here? I wouldn't ask about benefits and things like that, but how does the company impact the community, and how does the company have a trajectory for you? I think are fair questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great points. Pointed, I definitely didn't consider to do that. You definitely want to jolt that person out of their autopilot speech of, like you said, those behaviors.
Yeah, this is an equal playing field. Mm-hmm. It's an equal playing field. Sometimes we think the job sounds good and the job may be good, but the company is toxic. So you need to ask those questions to figure that out. You need to ask relationship-like questions so that you can understand, is this the right environment for me?
Most definitely. And I think in the same vein of volunteering and everything like that, a question more specifically to Dress for Success. So we were wondering if there are any virtual volunteer opportunities that interested members could do in the organization during this time of
COVID. Absolutely. There is probably more volunteer opportunities now that we're virtual. There's just follow-up calls to our women and seeing where they are in their progress. There are virtual interviews, our practice mock interviews with women over the internet. There are workshop facilitation. There is what we call a image consultation that we do. We offer women, of course, the clothing, and women still come in and physically pick up the clothing and still try them on. But before, what we've added is a virtual consultation in the privacy of her home to make sure that she's honoring the body she has today, is what we call it, and that she's okay with and really understanding her body type so that she understands the clothes that will make her body type look good. And so that is a very personal type of consultation. So we have that opportunity, and that opportunity does not have to be the same person that then comes back in and provides her the clothes. It can actually be 3 different people in that process. So there is a lot of volunteer opportunities. There are databases that we have, a Google Drive that we're putting our office work on the Google Drive if you want to help do, just post different things and do office detail. We have that as well. So this morning was our getting to know us breakfast. That is our entryway usually into the organization, and then we send you a volunteer application. And then we have a meeting like this, kind of like an interview, and we figure out what you're interested in doing, what your talents are, so that there's a good fit. And we still have a small in-person, where volunteers are coming in and helping with the management of the clothes internally.
Yes, that would be amazing. If you have any links or any postings for those positions for us to kind of circulate through our membership via email, that would be amazing. Because those definitely sound like great opportunities, especially to take advantage of while we're all still kind of quarantined in some ways. So another great question we have in the chat asks, what questions would you ask to bring out toxicity in a job environment?
Well, toxic, what would be toxic to me is if I had an employer that didn't, and that didn't allow me to, that didn't have a volunteer or a philanthropic platform to their organization. That means you're not community civically minded to me. So it's individually what that would mean to you, what question you would ask. But do you have education, any kind of continued education program that you support? You know, allowing me to go back to school, and do you have any kind of reimbursement plan for that? Are there any trainings that you provide internally or on a regular basis to keep me, you know, thriving and aware of what I'm doing on my job, you know, or just personal development? So those would be some of the questions that I would ask. So that would be what would be an indicator for me of what is toxic. So what I'm saying is making sure that the company is functioning on a basis that that meets your values. You know, am I ever going to be expected to work 6 days a week for a long period of time? You know, those kind of things. Making sure that they're clear, because sometimes that balance with family life is going to be, can I, you know, on days or weeks that I have to homeschool my children and it's my turn, can I work virtually and not come into the office? Those are all things that, you know, those are all parameters that you need to ask a corporation, if that's important to you.
Oh, great points. Seriously, great points. And I think that these aren't things that people consider, you know, in the honeymoon phase of a job, where, you know, you're excited about the tasks and you're just trying to get in there and learn everything. And then you realize that you really do have to, like you said, you have to put an emphasis on your own continuous improvement, your own professional improvement, and your life doesn't just stop at work. So you need that flexibility if that is something that that you need at the time. So I think that that's a great point. And I think we'll take one more question. And one of the last questions kind of speaks to the fact of, or speaks to the point, if you are not able to have a clean background, if you're sitting on the floor of your kid's playroom and there's things behind you, or you can't exactly get yourself to a point where you have a professional backdrop, how do you feel about the utilization of virtual backdrops offered through Zoom? I think Microsoft Teams might have that option, but I know most notably it's Zoom, especially if you're working on from an organizational account. It'd be like the Dress for Success background or the YNPN background or anything. So if you have any thoughts about utilizing those.
I think the virtual backgrounds can be helpful to not show whatever, you know, setting you might be in that's not appropriate. Just make sure that the coloring is a neutral color, and it's not something that's like a total. I've seen some that are totally green with like your leaves or in jungle, and they don't make sure it's not distracting. But I've seen some that are pretty solid and have kind of just a calming effect. I think I go for calming effect, and, you know, and making sure that everyone feels comfortable and relaxed, and then it's not taking away from what I'm saying and looking at me when I'm talking to you. If the background is too busy, then it kind of distracts a little bit. But I think they can work. And then you can download and that's what I've recently learned, is you can download your own picture and add your own image to make your backdrop what you want it to look like. So the picture you see in the background is a mural that's across our wall in the education center. We had small magnets made out of that wall. So I remembered that we have the artwork to that. So I took the artwork and added it as an image to the virtual background. And so you can do that in your computer of whatever image you want your background to be. So I definitely think that works.
Okay. Thank you so much. I didn't know.
You're welcome.
It's extremely helpful. So in the past,
You can add a photo. It just has to be a JPEG. It just has to be in a JPEG format.
Yeah, that's extremely helpful. Thank you so much. So in the last 9 minutes or so, 10 minutes or so, I just wanted to open the floor up to anyone who wanted to have their question answered live and didn't want to drop it in the chat, or just would like to have a really quick dialogue before we. So if anyone has any questions, any feedback for Melony, this would be the thing.
Sure. Hi, my name is Brittany. I am actually in Oxford, Mississippi right now. I work in athletics on the academic side, but my background is in events, recreation, all that type of fun stuff. So Melony, thank you so much for tonight. I appreciate you taking time to help us out and give us some tips.
Thank you, Brittany.
And then, yes, this has really been amazing. And I feel like it's this topic, there isn't a lot of information out there necessarily because everyone's just kind of playing it by ear with virtual learning and virtual meetings and everything like that. So definitely having some type of curriculum or some type of structure, more or less, to know, hey, these are my hard stop do's and here are my hard stop no's, really help. Even when you have been going through it and you feel like you know what to do, I know I've definitely learned a lot, and I'm definitely going to try to make myself a backdrop. That one isn't, that's like, I have one, I think that auto loads that's like orange or something and just is very aggressive. So, nice. So I think if we don't have any more questions or any feedback, and then Melony, if it's okay for us to kind of leave your email out for any questions or anything that anyone might have following this, if that's okay, we can do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience with my virtual presentation tonight. But and if you ever think about volunteering just for success, and we're all across the United States, so it's an organization that men and women can get involved in.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think we really do appreciate it. We appreciate your time and your expertise and everything.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
No problem. All right, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
We'll send some information your way pretty soon.